All right. Welcome back to the Tuesday night edition of the Eric Jr. podcast. I am Mr. Jacob Klein, joined here by Mr. Chris Lynch, back in studio on a 2-week brief hiatus, closely coming upon our 150th episode. Sir, how are you today?
I am fantastic. I had not known that it was 150 episodes. Wow, it really makes you look back and think, like, how many wasted hours we've been doing this. Yeah, like, if we had only been doing something productive towards society, what could we have accomplished?
You can only imagine. I mean, the preaching into the void.
Yes.
With very few results to show for it other than a spike of listenership once every 5 months.
Yes.
So, but that's why we do it. You never know when it's going to spike.
I mean, we are on the precipice of a major spike. I think so.
So, we find ourselves in a little bit of a lull, a very depressing week, I would say, overall. Our Philadelphia Phillies are officially out of the playoffs. We never should have gotten our hopes up in the first place.
It was foolish of us to do so, but fools as we are, we rushed headfirst in.
Our Eagles are on the schneid.
Yeah.
There is some real murmurs about Mr. Sirianni that I do think we need to get into. And, of course, your Philadelphia 76ers are back in the news. The drama continues.
They played an actual basketball game.
And that's not even news.
That's not even really news. But they did play a basketball game. I didn't watch it because I'm not a degenerate. I don't have the rush to get back into the team.
I am not ready to get hurt again.
Not yet.
I really haven't. You know how they talk about processing trauma?
Yep.
Haven't even come close.
Not
several months away from it.
Haven't even been. Yeah, even attempted.
I have yet to register fully what happened.
Yeah.
As I told you, I kind of quit the whole internet for a little bit there.
Yep.
So I'll let you know once I'm reacclimated entirely.
Okay.
But let's go ahead. It's NFL season. It's
Yep.
Eagles season. 3-game losing streak. Got to start with our Birds coming off an expected, but still relatively deflating loss to the
Kansas City
Chiefs. And Andy Reid getting his 100th victory here in Philadelphia. Very fitting. Neither team punted, which is a crazy stat.
I mean, that's like fun, right? Like that's fun for the viewer, but not necessarily
not
like
football.
Great for your.
It's pretty entertaining.
Yeah, it's entertaining, but it doesn't necessarily reflect well on either side, I think.
Absolutely not. And how about the Eagles' second best player behind Javon Hargrave, my guy, Aaron Sipas, didn't even get to go out there and do anything.
I know. I mean, they really left their best weapon on the bench. It seems like a real missed opportunity.
You got to think part of the game plan going into Week 5 is figure how do we get this guy more looks? How do we quick throw? How do we get this guy
more involved?
That's right.
Yes,
that's the key to victory, and that's what you're not going to find on those professional NFL pods because they don't dive into the nitty gritty.
No. So. Unfortunately, the Eagles lost. We all kind of expected they would lose after the beatdown in Dallas. Kansas City coming off a little snide of their own. We all expected them to.
Was the easiest money it could have ever made in that 7-point spread.
Oh, yeah. Obviously, we know the offense over in Kansas City is unstoppable, and their defense, similarly, very easy to get past. They do not offer much resistance. So it just ended up being a game where neither side's defense was able to look up for stuff. Like, the offenses were moving the ball pretty much at will. The difference between the two teams turns out to be, finishing those drives off, turning them into 7 points. Chiefs were very efficient. They had the one turnover, but on every other drive, they're scoring points, they're scoring touchdowns. And the Eagles, they had some issues, mainly with the penalties.
Story of the game.
Yeah.
Again, 3 touchdowns wiped off the board. They were able to put up points. Jalen Hurts missed some throws that could have put 7 points on the board. I don't think the loss is more on him. We can't say that we're officially a quarter into the season because of the 17th game, but we are 4 games into the season,
right? And
the rap is now starting to come out about these coaches, their lack of adjustments. At least in Jonathan Gannon's case, it's very early on. You really feel, and this is cliche, this is very sports talky, but you just get the sense that the lack of a veteran established coordinator of some kind is sorely missed, just like a veteran wide receiver presence is sorely missed, just with little things, with making sure that guys are lined up, doing the right thing, and just behind the scenes stuff during practice and meetings. Other than Jim Bob Cooter, the former Detroit coach that just never was good at anything, they really don't have a guy that's established with real NFL pedigree. And you're starting to see that. It's this new wave of younger, Sean McVay clones. It doesn't always work like that. You sometimes need those old school guys, and I think you're starting to see that.
Yeah, the penalties are becoming a major issue. They've been prevalent, I would say, in all 4 games. In all 4 games, the Eagles have been called for a lot. They lead the league in penalties, I think.
It's the only thing we lead the league in.
You got to have something. Everybody's got something to lead the league in. So that's us. And I think I think it's probably fair to question the inexperience of the coaching staff as well as a lot of the players. And as a fan, penalties, you can accept that penalties are going to happen over the course of a game, and to a degree, and I can accept penalties of kind of being over aggressive, being too anxious. I can accept those penalties from time to time. Obviously, the Eagles are getting way too many of those, but they're also getting the dumb procedural penalties that you really have to clean up, that any good team knows to be able to handle those. That's what separates the good teams from the bad teams. And it just seems like not only are we getting the ones where we're being too aggressive, we're being too, not reining it in a little bit, we're getting the ones where you can't line up properly, shifting illegally, and just really boneheaded mistakes. And we can talk about how the team is playing, which I think you'd say probably about what you expected heading into the season. The offense looks maybe a little better than you thought. Defense maybe a little worse. But overall, I don't think that they've performed so terribly that I'm surprised. It's just the miscue on the penalties is starting to have real effects on points and wins. So that's what I'm looking at.
And it's again, like you mentioned, it's the pattern, right? When Andre Dillard, who has played pretty well, let's be honest, compared to his camp and what he was putting out, when he gets his third, illegal down the field penalty, it's just a killer. And when Josh Sweat on 3rd and 6 is trying to jump the snap count perfectly against this team that you've had rare attempts of anything more than 3rd and short to get off the field. There's 3rd and 6, a real opportunity to get the ball back in a 1-possession game. And there it is. There's that 5-yard penalty, and then it's just automatic for Kansas City to convert. The one thing I will say, you're obviously implementing this new system. You would like to think that the front office and Howie and Jeff Lurie are looking at this as at least a 2-year experiment. In implementing a completely new scheme, you're not going to really see that take shape until at least halfway through the year. Going up against real NFL teams. Problem is, our clock is running out in terms of even hoping to be relevant. And by that I mean, you have been, we have kind of made it a joke of yours in the past, must-win games.
Right.
I would argue, in all seriousness, that if they do not pull this out against Carolina this week, you can essentially completely shift your focus and the type of viewing experience for the remainder of the year. I mean, you got Tampa Bay coming up and everything. So
the schedule did not do them any favors. With all the NFC's teams kind of backloaded in the second half and the last 4 to 6 weeks, that's not good. And you have these games against Kansas City, and now you go away to Carolina, who have looked positively mediocre. They got the 3-1 record, but
going up against bad teams, they're still putting up wins though.
They're putting up wins, which is more than they can say for us. So
Sam Darnold, man,
that's a tough game at Carolina, and then you come home to Tampa Bay.
We call that a schedule loss.
That's a schedule loss.
Even though it's at home,
right,
that's what we call a schedule loss.
I mean, yeah. So I've been one to jump the must-win tag.
I'd say so
in the past, but I think I have to agree with you that if you want this season to be anything more than what you said, an experiment, then you have to win this game. Because Dallas is looking like they might run away with it otherwise. If you keep losing, there's not going to be enough games left in the season. I know they added one extra, so maybe we have to adjust our expectations. They added one extra game, so maybe that'll be our saving grace.
The thing is, with football, when you're out of it early in the year, it's just especially tough because you look forward to the time of the year so much, and you only get 17 of these entire games as opposed to every other sport where there's an oversaturation of games, arguably, NBA and MLB. So it's going to be tough. 2-3, if you're walking out of week 5 and you're 2-3 with could have had it against San Fran, completely didn't show up against Dallas, and then hung with Kansas City a little bit. There are definitely some big positives to take away from that, and I would argue that they're going to have a chance this weekend. And while you had to be 90 to 95% perfect to even have a shot against the Chiefs, which I would say maybe they were 65-70. I mean, they had some big chunk plays. I'd say you could get away with being 70-75% and still be able to steal a game against Sam Darnold and the Carolina Panthers, which it would just be really nice to have. Stop the bleeding. Maybe you see Jonathan Gannon switch it up, not go so zone heavy, and have him dunk and dip all the way to the touchdowns and have those long drives that really break your back. So overall, bright spot, Javon Hargrave, 5 sacks. Aaron Siposs looks really, really good. Linebackers, let me just say this, has never mattered for this Philadelphia Eagles team. And in Jonathan Gannon's system, you need good linebackers.
Damn.
So if this guy is going to be here a couple years, guess what's coming next year? A linebacker on the first 2 days, especially with the way
it's a bold take right there.
I'm telling you right now, guaranteed. If they can have a reasonable season, 6-11, 7-10, I had to really think about that.
Yeah, I know. I saw you doing the math.
Seriously though, and let's say Miami is a little bit worse than them. It's looking really good right now. Those picks. I'm not counting anything with Carson Wentz. I think that's going to be a high second rounder. They're going to take him out high second round, but 2 first, and then that high second rounder. There's definitely going to be an opportunity.
You have 2 high second rounders because you'll have the Eagles.
Your own,
well.
right. I mean, Jalen Hurts, man, that is what the story is going to come.
Yep.
Even more than the coaches. If Jalen Hurts had, if the season were to end today, you would say they're basically right where they started. I think. I don't know if he's done much to separate himself and saying that you're not involved in quarterback rumors.
I think it's a case of if you were in on Jalen Hurts before the year, you see the reasons why you're still in it, and if you were out on Jalen Hurts, you can see the plays that would convince you to be out on it. So
next 10 games, that's it. That's the whole narrative for the season.
Exactly. There's just been 2. It's only been 4 games, but he's shown enough for either side to be convinced, which is really going to make this a difficult decision.
Yeah.
He's not been extreme one way or the other. He's kind of just riding the middle right there.
Just like a team has, he's going to need some statement wins.
I thought that him bouncing back from the Dallas game and just the obvious disappointment it would have been. He's from Texas. His first game in Dallas, against the Cowboys. I have to imagine that would have been such a disappointment to come out so flat as he did. The way that he bounced back, albeit against a very poor defense, a defense that has is going to hold them back from where they want to be. That was a bottom third defense that they faced in Kansas City at home. But I thought the way that he bounced back, I thought was encouraging.
Yeah, and again, when you're a proponent for saying that you believe in him, that's what you're looking for in this season. You're looking for him to have a short-term memory, move on from it, and put up some points, which he did. On the other side, let me just say this, and this is a bit of a tangent, but between Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, I'm not going to say the word is pandering. It's just a bit cliche, some of these quotes that they're putting out there. That Nick Sirianni...
Hurts is really he's got the dictionary of QB talk. He's got it out in front of him, and he's reading line for line. And he is not giving anything away except cliches, except pandering. It is all just completely rehearsed.
But even Nick Sirianni, they ask about the team's identity, and he's just well, we want to be able to get everybody involved and establish a run game. Then they go to Jalen Hurts. What do you think about the last game? He's with the drop a deuce, you don't stay and look at it. You just move on. It's guys, just act normal, say normal things. You don't have to get the soundbite. You don't have to have articles about how you had such a good quote about needing to bounce back. You can just have the normal quote about we're going to bounce back.
Yeah, they're shooting for the stars.
Both of them, though, in tandem. Him and Nick, it's kind of it's starting to wear on me a little, and we're 4 games in. But hey, they win this week. We go into a whole new tailspin of a narrative, going into week 6. So they really need this. I'll tell you what, they need somebody to step up. They got a pretty big turnover. You know, they got their first interception. It seemed like that. Hey, turning them over, you never know what can happen. But
that was, I thought, really crucial in them being able to stay in that game for as long as they did. You know, being able to get forced turnovers against a team with that kind of offensive firepower is necessary to stay in the game. So I thought that was really well done by the defense.
They didn't give up the big play until Tyreek Hill at the end. And that's going to continue to be part of the story.
Right.
Can they not give up the big play, but also, just like in the Atlanta game, have the opposition settle for field goals on those longer drives as opposed to touchdowns, and that will keep them in and allow them to win these crucial games moving forward. So, you know, I'm feeling very melancholy. You know, this game particularly, you're going up against the best team in football, so you're saying, okay, I'm going to be very calm and relaxed. Yes, I was screaming by the second quarter, but
not very long. Yeah.
Look, this is a really big game, and they need it badly.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to get it, dude.
I think they need it, so I think they will get it.
2-3 after week 5.
I do trust Jalen Hurts to play well in these type of games at home against.
On the road against Carolina.
Oh, it's on the road. Sorry. On the road against Carolina. This is a gotta have it game. I mean,
I think they're going to show up.
I hope so. Couple just like individuals to touch on. Obviously, Javon Hargrave has had a great start to the season. He's been everything we kind of hoped he would be. You know, the year of the signing, but never. Better late than never. You know, of course. The connection between Jalen Hurts and Devonta Smith, and maybe I don't know if I'm reading. Is it just Devonta Smith's talent that is just like shining through, or is it this connection between Hurts and Smith? Because he's been on fire. They have been just on target all year.
We talk about coaching, though, and a touchdown gets called back on the same error that happened with Jalen Reagor against Dallas, where he gets pushed out of bounds, where he's running a route. Nick Sirianni is a wide receivers coach, and the same thing happened. Devontae's had a great start to his rookie campaign, and I would agree that I think it's more so talent. You know, we talked about him not gaining as much separation initially, but just the hands.
Yep.
You did see him get kind of, you know, pile drived a little bit because, you know, he was trying to force forward for extra yards, and the guy was like, "You're 170 soaking wet, dude. Like I can kind of smash you around a little bit." But the same error being made, where again that's coaching. But Devontae Smith absolutely is another bright spot. Maybe the only bright spot on the offensive side of the ball, between your offensive line having 3 different starting lineups already.
Being decimated already.
Between no other wide receiver establishing themselves as a threat. Between inconsistent tight end integration.
The running back usage.
Miles Sanders being outshined by the 5th rounder, Kenneth Gainwell. I mean, there are a lot of questions. And I think this is a big Miles Sanders game coming up. And I think Devontae Smith, I really need him for my fantasy team. As a guy who doesn't have a bona fide number 1 wide receiver, who's got 3 really good running backs and no good wide receivers. Devontae's got to continue to put these numbers up. Rookie wide receiver with a 100-yard game, that should be a story. That should be a positive, and we absolutely should be appreciative of it.
Absolutely. He's been great.
Who else you got?
3 touchdowns called back from penalties
full stop.
I know we talked about the penalties earlier, but that is kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I'd say so. It's one thing to have those penalty backbreaker plays, but when it literally takes points off, and not just that, but as a viewer,
I think it was they ended up only getting 10 points from those 3 drives. That's tough.
And when you're watching the game, to watch it, get so excited about the score, only to realize that it's getting called back. That is the worst feeling in football.
It's a very particular feeling. Like getting it and then having it taken away from you is like
even a first down conversion. It doesn't hit the same.
Yeah, right. Like you know, at times last year, the offense was terrible, but you got to finish off drives with touchdowns, and I don't know the Devontae Smith call. Like, that touchdown catch was amazing. I think they should have let it stand.
Yeah, sure.
Purely on that.
I would have loved it.
Yeah.
Okay? I would have won this week if that call standed.
That's tough, buddy.
If that call stood. Whatever. I talk great. Okay, I talk
great.
Yep,
we both talk great. We're both
professionals. In the most mediocre sense of the word.
Yeah. Okay, let's move off the Eagles and get into another topic you mentioned, which was the finality of the Philadelphia Phillies season. And boy, I mean, like the last couple years, you gotta say, went out with a little bit of a whimper.
Not only did the Philadelphia Phillies come up small. Let me just say, before we even really get into it, that the AAA affiliate, the Iron Pigs, ended the season on a 9-game losing streak. So just in case you were wondering if there's greener pastures coming up, it's not. And here's what I'll say. A historic season by Zach Wheeler and by Bryce Harper. 2
historic seasons.
A pitcher and a position player putting up those types of numbers to be squandered is so embarrassing and pathetic. That's what it is. It's pathetic.
Strong words.
Okay? They get their first winning season in however long, barely.
A decade,
I mean, barely. Could they say that they have a winning season? And I don't know. I almost don't want either guy to win either award because it just like it doesn't do anything for like I guess Zach Wheeler, you want the recognition, and I think when we initially had that signing, everybody, me, you, and Ray, we were all like, well, for the money, and compared to what
he's
Jarrett Cole
the contract got for sure,
tenfold.
And the interesting part of like contract stuff, or with these awards, you always wonder like, is it going to inflate their value? But Bryce, locked up. Zach Wheeler, pretty locked up for the next 3 years. I think so. It's interesting to see. I don't think Zach Wheeler will win it, but I think Bryce Harper is probably going to be the MVP.
If like 22 of those home runs were not solo jacks,
I know,
and his RBI numbers could go up, then I feel like it would be pretty clear.
It'd be a lock,
It was like Tatis was the only guy, and they don't make the playoffs. So
they don't make the playoffs.
It's kind of like I think you give the nod to Bryce, but just on the season as a whole, I am of the belief that I don't know what Joe Girardi's contract situation is like. I do think he should be brought back next year. And everything else is totally like the pitching, third base, Rhys Hoskins' health moving forward. He was great before he went out. I just don't see how they get a lot better without
spending a lot of money,
without going over the luxury tax. And specifically, I always thought it's bullpen. And then when you watch this team the second half of the year, you go, there were stretches where they were scoreless for 20 innings. And how do you justify that? How do you just spend more money on a big name bat? That's just not going to fix it. There's something deeper there.
So you're right at what you're hinting at is absolutely right. The Phillies do not have one hole that is fixable. They have several holes. The bullpen obviously being one of them. They lack starting pitching depth. I mean, they had to go to the bullpen games. They had a bad bullpen. Like, what are you gonna do?
Shout out Ranger Suarez, dog.
I mean, shout out Ranger Suarez, of course.
We love you, man. You're one of the only bright spots, dude.
Like that dude's got it.
Like moving him in, it was just like this guy's gonna starting pitch, and Spike Eskin made a great point on the Ricky where he's like, "Is this guy best served just never pitching for us again?" Because our memory of him we would hold him in such high regard. I think there's traction to that.
I think it's
if he
true.
comes back, he can only disappoint us.
Well, the problem is that we're going to come back and we're not going to have added any new pitchers. so we're going to have to rely on him to be as good as he was, which is obviously unsustainable. We've seen rookie pitchers in the past come in, have very good stuff. And I'm not saying they get totally figured out, but the league adjusts to them, right? Like, it happened on the other side of the bat with Rhys Hoskins, right? Like, pitchers and batters, it's a game of adjustment, and not as much as people think. When you get tape on somebody, it's a little easier to game plan for him.
I can already see
there's no way he's gonna be elite ace guy. Like, that's not realistic to think. But I think the future is bright for Ranger Suarez. He looks to be a very good prospect, but the problem is that the Phillies are now in a situation where they're either going to have to rely on him to be great or spend money. And you mentioned it, the luxury tax is a very big looming thing that's scary for John Milton because he's a coward and he doesn't want to. He's cheap.
That's about it.
That's it. So bottom line, the team has to spend money to. They don't have any prospects coming up. They don't have a lot of trade chips. And they have so many holes. Bullpen, starting pitching, center field, shortstop. That's the bare minimum that need to be improved.
That's what I was going to
next
ask.
season.
Okay.
Those four are, whatever order you want to rate them, they're all big, big holes.
All right. Let me ask you this. You were all in on the Sixers getting Kyle Lowry at the deadline to say
Correct.
go all in at the time.
Yes.
Did the Phillies make a mistake by not having Bryson Stott shipped out or someone to get immediate help this year to possibly put them over the edge this year?
I would say yes. I would say anytime you're adding talent, that's when you're the Phillies in this scenario, you have to add talent. No matter the cost.
No matter the cost. Literally possibly your only blue chip prospect.
Well,
that was the cost.
Yeah, and you make that, and that's a very sound argument that you want to keep those blue chips. But the problem is you don't know how long those guys are going to stay blue chip prospects. We've seen it in the past, time and time again for the Phillies,
especially with baseball.
Your top prospects, you do not know. It is so rare that you can just plot the ascension of a prospect on like from years out. You just don't know. He's not ready. He's not a MLB shortstop right now. That's all you know. And you need MLB shortstop.
Okay, so if you're targeting two positions in this offseason, you are getting a bona fide. I mean, Zach Eflin's injury really wasn't discussed a lot. He was playing pretty well before he went down.
He was playing,
and now he's out into next year.
Yeah.
So we're talking. You're saying your top two priorities are a bona fide starting three pitcher, like a real number three starting pitcher.
You got to get a veteran pitcher,
and bullpen or position. Like
I would go. I would
targeting two things.
I would go whatever bat you can get. If it's a shortstop, great. If it's a center fielder, great. Okay. I think the backup options in both of those spots are about the same. Mm-hmm. I think if you can get Freddie Galvis, as a shortstop, I think that's fine as long as you have a legitimate center fielder, and then vice versa.
Right.
So I think you're getting what the problem is that we were getting like below MLB average production from those spots. I think the hope is you can get with a little more experience. Freddie Galvis can give you at least mediocre coverage in that spot at shortstop. So I would say center fielder would be the number one. There's a lot of shortstops on the market, so that might be easier to achieve. If you were going to spend money, it probably a good bet to spend money on one of those shortstops. You're probably going to get decent value. Whereas Sterling Marte is really the only big name, guaranteed center fielder that you're going to be able to target.
I got to say, just a couple other names to shout out. Ronald Torreyes, just had some huge hits this year, and this season could have gone off the rails a couple times. And a guy like that, and obviously a guy like Ranger Suarez, like they legitimately steadied the tide at a couple different moments during the season.
The reason that the Phillies were in it as long as they were
guys like that, picking and choosing their spots to really perform when we absolutely needed them. And obviously that's just more of an indictment on the team in general.
Yeah.
But like you said, I can't get over this instability with our pitching, with your setup guys. I thought Ian Kennedy actually did a pretty good job this year, and that acquisition, Kyle Gibson as well. I thought those guys were actually really solid. It's just you needed more than really solid.
Right, and it was too little too late.
Too little too late. Story of the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah, I mean, the most blown saves in franchise history. They led the league.
Most 0-2 homers given up. Wow. I mean, like, this is a pattern that has persisted.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. It is something deeper. It is something endemic of this team. And I don't know how you saw that. I guess you say Joe Girardi, it starts there. I
don't believe.
Bullpen,
I think there's a lot of reluctance to blame Joe Girardi. I think you could say there's enough blame to go around.
Sure.
That everybody can get some.
Sure.
I think Joe
Do you think he should be brought back next year? I believe he should. I am pretty firm in that belief.
I don't know that it's a firm. I'm not as firm as you.
You could be talked either way.
I could be talked either way.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the guy that Joe Girardi replaced.
You want to talk about that handsome man? Go ahead. How many wins? 106 or something? Dude?
So many wins, man. So many fucking wins. With a roster that is not that good.
That is like, you know what that is? That's like the Oakland A's Moneyball team.
Yeah.
Like, that team's about to get bounced in the first round. Come on now.
I tend to agree with you.
They beat out the Dodgers. They beat the
Dodgers.
Beat out the Dodgers. The Dodgers with $1 billion payroll now have to have one game where everything is on the line because of the freaking San Fran Giants and Gabe Kapler at the helm.
It's unbelievable.
That is remarkable, and
that's baseball.
I don't really. Yeah, classic. That's baseball. I don't really have a lot of disdain for Gabe. I'll be honest. Like,
no, me neither. But
now you think about, you say,
surely the comparison's gonna be brought up.
It's going to be brought up, but here's what I would say: to remember this the next time, and maybe currently while we're thinking about Nick Sirianni, where we say, if we give a guy like Gabe Kapler one more year, would the results have been any different?
I don't know. I don't know that they would have. It's tough to say.
I think they will. I think a guy like going into his fourth year, he has now a step, like with the same organization. He goes to a new place, and they say, "Look, we don't have the top talent, and yet he's doing things with those pieces." So maybe that leads you to believe that it wouldn't have happened here because we also did not have the top talent.
We don't,
and we weren't able to manufacture even
the
close
Giants,
to that.
To be clear, have better talent than the Phillies. I'm just saying it's just compared to the record, they don't have
their numbers presented this year.
Right. But they are definitely better than the Phillies. But they're not. Are they? 20 games better?
No,
I would say no.
No, and I would say, listen, shout out Gabe. Listen, in the pandemic year, when everybody was wearing masks, having his beautiful face covered up with the mask while he was chewing vociferously on that gum, it was tough for everybody involved, okay? So, listen,
not
Gabe,
ideal. I mean, maybe that made it a little easier to let go of him.
Maybe, and I'll tell you what, Gabe, I harbor no ill will. All I'm saying is, you're not doing
I will if they get out of the first round.
No, they're not. No. It's a JK guarantee.
Wow.
That they will not get out of the first round, okay? And they owe the Dodgers an apology just for putting them through this stress.
I know. It's quite unfair. The team that the Dodgers have,
they gotta have more consideration.
Like
sneaking in the wild card. Have your feel-good story in the wild card.
Yes,
Both
exactly.
teams winning over 100 games is preposterous.
It's unbelievable. I mean,
as you
does
said,
it make you think about changing the MLB format?
Yes. It should be 2 out of 3.
It should be.
It's crazy that it's one game. It's my first take, but what do you have?
I would rather see it become a 6-team playoff.
Oh, you want it down and dirty. You want to just expand everything. Everybody gets a participation trophy, huh?
That's true. Maybe that's right. But I think there's a lot of good teams in baseball. I think if you looked at the AL this year, there were a lot of there are a few teams that it's a shame that they don't get to participate in the playoffs. And I think having Boston and New York, and a little bit to the degree of having the Cardinals and the Dodgers play just a 1-game one-off. I get the idea. It seems a bit
hyperbolic.
Yeah, like not scientific. Like it's a bit random.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not good for the overall product.
Right.
To just be like, okay,
to have the Dodgers be eliminated before the playoffs really start. Yeah. There's something probably not just in terms of finding as a mechanism to find the best teams,
right?
Which is really what the playoffs are supposed to be, right? That doesn't seem like it's really accomplishing that goal.
It's like Mike Trout being on the
Those
Angels.
are the two best teams in baseball.
Like the best possible talent not being on the biggest stage continues to remain one of the biggest problems of baseball.
We're getting off topic. The Phillies.
You don't want to hear my diatribe about Major League Baseball and how Bud Selig messed it all up?
I do want to cut you off.
You don't want to hear about my Double-A takes about what we should do to change the game?
Too far off
or the
topic.
second baseman having a runner on second to start these overtime extra inning games? You don't want to hear about that?
No, I don't.
What?
I don't care about those. Another time. We said this would be a quick podcast. We said this would be in and out.
Quick 3-hour podcast.
3-hour podcast. That'll be for the Patreon listeners. How about that? we'll have all our Bud Selig takes on the Patreon.
Oh, I got lots of them.
I bet you do. But there is another. I mean, there's another team in Philadelphia that we haven't talked about. It's been in the news a lot. I don't know if you've read anything. The Philadelphia 76ers, if you were not aware, played a basketball game.
Oh, was it against the Tampa Bay Raptors, or what's going on with
Toronto
that?
Raptors, actually.
Oh, they play in Canada.
They do. They play in Toronto, actually.
That's cool. That's swell. I'm glad they have representation in the league.
Yeah, of course. So I did not watch it, but...
I also did not watch it. I think you were trying to maybe hand it off to me there, and I also had several better things to do with my time, so I have also not watched it.
It wasn't available, but I think we should talk about the season coming up. We haven't really touched on it. What do you think about, our expectations for the first month of the season?
So, I think most NBA people view the Nets as just a Thanos inevitability.
Mm-hmm.
And
although Kyrie Irving's, gotta be.
If you're saving the Bud Selig stuff, then we're saving the Kyrie Irving stuff.
Fair enough.
All right. If Joel Embiid is going into the season in arguably the best condition and shape of his life and adding...
Throw that out the window. You cannot be talking about Joel Embiid in the best shape of his life.
Oh,
what was he in last year?
I am.
What was he in last year?
No.
He was a
coming
slob
off the
last
bubble
year?
season. No, when he
was a slob.
When he clearly established himself as like the MVP front runner last year. I think coming into this year, he didn't get surgery, and his performance even through it wasn't like he fell off come playoff time when it mattered the most. Like he continued to put up those numbers come playoff time. And honestly, the one who shall remain nameless, not having him take up space where Joel operates is only going to help him get those numbers better and more efficient. And it's putting more responsibility on his shoulders. But for MVP chatter, I think that's only going to, heighten his national case for the award.
What I was trying... Okay.
This team is going to be a 5th seed.
Yeah.
And they're probably going to lose in the second round again. Okay? That's what you want to fucking hear. There it is. Okay? Okay? Now why don't you talk for a little bit about what you think they're going to be?
I think it's right that we should probably recognize the regression that's going to happen with the Sixers this year. Ben Simmons not being on the team is going to be a pretty drastic downturn in their performance.
You don't say.
I truly believe that in the regular season their floor is going to be significantly lower. I think we're going to get blown out a few games. I think we're going to drop a lot of games to some mediocre teams. The fact that the Sixers, their biggest problem was not having a point guard, somebody to handle the ball, and now they got rid of the only guy who can pass. That's a problem. And dribble. You can't. Nobody can pass and dribble on the team. Nobody can pass. That's a problem. No one's talking about that, but that's a problem.
Sure.
We can't expect Tyrese Maxey to turn into this guy, this Steve Nash overnight. He's not gonna be ready. He's not ready.
Let me just say this. You're absolutely right that their regular season performance is going to take a significant dip.
Yep.
Here's why I'm not up in arms about that. They had the number 1 seed and home court advantage in a Game 7 in the playoffs, which is why those regular season games and records matter. You know what fucking happened?
They lost.
They got embarrassed in arguably the most shameful loss in Philadelphia playoff history because of the expectations on that team.
Yep.
Okay? So that home court doesn't mean shit to me anymore, even though I used to think it was everything. The biggest thing that you mentioned there is the actual point guard duty that is going to be missing along with the defense.
Yeah.
Now, people talked like Ben Simmons' defense wasn't that important because he had Joel Embiid on the back line. Flip that. Joel Embiid's defensive responsibility now becomes so much more because you have these Danny Green is your best perimeter defender. So you're in for a world of hurt against these upper echelon teams, and Joel can still drop 40 and 50, and they're still going to lose because no one else can do much of anything.
And it doesn't help Joel Embiid's workload that now he has to completely carry the torch defensively. I mean, we know Matisse Thybulle is out there, but he's not the same type of defender as Ben Simmons where you can just stick Ben Simmons on the other team's best player and know that he's going to compete. And you're going to get good defense. We're talking
Lucas. We're talking the upper echelon players.
Upper echelon players. Tatum's. These are the guys that you need slowing down. Ben Simmons was the guy last year. He was doing it. The fact that you're putting so much defensive pressure on Embiid in addition to the additional offensive production that we're going to miss because of Ben Simmons' transition capabilities. He's going to have to score now 25, 26, more maybe, a game to keep us in these games, in addition to being an anchor defensively. I think it's going to put a strain on Joel Embiid that is just not good long term. not sustainable.
More pressure as a defensive anchor, more pressure to get to the line more and continue with those post points, more pressure to get the shooters involved in the looks that they need in order to be efficient and put up those great numbers like Danny Green and Seth did last year.
Because they're not getting the passes from Ben Simmons anymore. They're not getting the pocket passes in transition that they were so effective automatic last year. They're not going to be able to get those now. Everything's going to be a struggle. The offense is going to be slower by design. But with so few playmakers on the court, I wonder what that will do to the Sixers' efficiency, which was sky high last year. It was
astronomical.
We know that it was probably unsustainably high, but how much of a crater can this offense, sustain?
So I'm as we finish out really this overall Sixers talk, one preseason game in, I said 5th seed, 2nd round exit.
I'm gonna go 6th seed, potential 1st round exit.
It's a dark time.
That's a dark timeline.
When we talk about, without trying to be tongue-in-cheek, we talk about the process. We talk about all the work that went into becoming relevant and staying relevant for a prolonged period of time after such a long string of mediocrity and eight seeds and never even having a real chance. To be at this current moment that we are at, I got to say I never envisioned this actually materializing. I thought if it was going to go up in a cloud of smoke, that it would happen all at once. It would be a playoff exit in which, something was ruptured and we knew it right at that very moment. Where I guess at the end of that Hawks series, while I was broken, I didn't believe that it was the end of a specific process era.
Yeah.
But right now we are moving into, I don't even know what this is now. It's not phase 2. It's not phase 3.
Yeah.
Should we just call it the afterlife?
Yeah.
Where we still have Joel Embiid and that is literally it?
BBS. We were before Ben Simmons shot. We're after.
BBS, man. BBS.
So,
ABS. I'm looking forward to the ABS era.
I mean, that's what's good. That's what we're gonna have to look forward
ABS
to.
breaks,
It'll be different.
ABS.
And I'm not saying
era.
they'll be 6th seed forever. I'm not saying they can't bounce back. I think for this year, because they don't have a point guard on the roster, and there's not a lot of outcomes of any trades that are gonna bring us an elite point guard. I think it's going to be a year of kind of reassessing what you have in different guys and how these pieces fit together. Because you have talent on the court. I'm not trying to take anything away from Tyrese Maxey. He has talent. And the team is talented, 1 to 9. You think that's a pretty good roster. I'm not saying they can't compete. I'm saying it's tough to see all the pieces meshing so well that it overcomes what you're losing, you have the distraction that this is taking on the team is going to negatively affect them.
Sure, I don't want to dive into that. What I will say is, for all of Ben Simmons' faults, what he was able to do was unlock those great supporting and supplementary pieces, the shooters.
I think he was,
and the defense.
I think he was very important to career efficiency numbers from a handful of guys. Are you talking Tobias Harris, Seth Curry, Furkan Korkmaz, Danny Green? All these guys had very high efficiency numbers, and I think Ben Simmons is at least part of the reason why that happened.
I mean, he's a significant reason why. And look, a guy like Danny Green, who was a quote-unquote throw-in just for us to get rid of Al Horford, just cashed out for $20 million because he put up amazing numbers, especially from the corner. Ben Simmons, that is what I fear the regular season narrative is going to be, how all these guys, quote-unquote, fall off a cliff because they are not getting set up in the way that they have been so used to during their Sixers tenure.
Yeah, that would be disastrous.
Those guys just, their numbers completely... Danny Green shooting 34%.
I have a question that's mostly not serious, but kind of serious.
Lay it on me.
If the Sixers, if what you're saying does happen and the Sixers efficiency craters, does that not improve our standing in any Ben Simmons trade talks?
That's fucking good, dude. That's good. See, that's why people come to this podcast.
So I'm like, it could be a bit of a win-win,
So we suck. And also,
but
our leverage might marginally increase.
Yeah.
Those are the silver linings that we have to be hoping for during the Sixers season. If we're looking at a 6 seed, I'm looking for any silver lining provided is going to be appreciated.
That was one that came to me today.
That's good.
That's
good.
So
real light bulb moment for you there, huh? Real galaxy brain stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Obviously, we can talk about the season, but I think there's going
to be more time for that.
There's going to be more time for
what
that.
There's not more time for
we don't know.
is the Eric Jr. podcast bit of naming unlikely /
we're going to run out of teams
/ impossible, and we're going to run out of teams in a couple weeks, and undoubtedly Ben Simmons will still be here. But moving forward, instead of engaging in actual Ben Simmons discourse,
which we don't want to do.
Yeah, I don't think anybody at this point, nobody wants to do it. Okay,
it's just been
the beat writers. Everybody's like, listen, just tell me when it's done.
Yes,
Woj,
exactly.
just tell me when it's done. Don't tell me when it's on the 1 yard line. Don't tell me any of that BS. Tell me when it's done.
Yeah.
So for now, we will continue naming off teams that we feel are relatively unlikely. And unfortunately, last week or 2 weeks ago, when I said the Detroit Pistons,
your unlikely teams
was then mentioned in a legitimate report about being leaked and linked
which
to the
is
Sixers.
One, good for you because it gives you credibility, but two, bad for you because now there's no longer an unlikely team, and therefore we cannot accept that as a submission. So
the application is now denied.
This week you have to submit 2 unlikely teams.
Oh, in
order to continue.
That is
because
absurd.
One of your teams, frankly, is no longer. You cannot categorize it as unlikely because they were mentioned in a trade rumor.
To be fair, the agreed upon rules are these are unlikely, unlinked teams.
Unlinked teams.
So once one gets a legitimate report, it is then nullified.
It's nullified, null and void. Correct.
Null and void. All right, so. Thanks for just dropping that on me. Let me go ahead and proceed with my initial.
And then I'll go, and then I'll
give me some time to think.
Yeah,
exactly. All right, so you've mentioned it a couple times. You know what we're gonna need once Ben Simmons leaves? That would be.
We needed quite a few things. I think the one you're talking about is a point guard.
That would be a point guard. And where I want him to go is a place where we could get 2 of those in return.
Wow.
I want 2 of them. Do you know who one of them is?
What's that?
He's a guy who used to play for us. I don't know if you're going to be familiar. He's a guy I've always had an affinity for. He's got a really cool first name. Do you want to guess who that guy is?
Is it Ish Smith?
That would be Ish Smith, who is now a member of which team? Do you know?
I don't know.
That would be the Charlotte Hornets.
Oh, wow.
And the Charlotte Hornets, between Ish Smith's contract and a one Terry Rozier, would come close to matching Ben Simmons' salary. Terry Rozier just cashed out as well, had an amazing year. You got to think that the numbers he put up last year are also that is an absolute anomaly of just his 3-point shooting. Mm-hmm. But when you talk about Charlotte, I think could kind of talk themselves in, all right, a Ben Simmons and LaMelo pairing, just to be relevant, you want them to get into the playoffs. I feel like that could totally work. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I just feel like that's fun. And us getting 2 point guards in return is just a really fun narrative for me personally. So Ish Smith and Terry Rozier for Ben Simmons. Who says no?
I mean, I think a lot of people are going to have some issue with that. There may be some picks need to be exchanged.
Sure, we'll give up a first or 2 firsts. Yeah, whatever it takes. Sure.
Haha, funny. But jokes aside, okay. So Charlotte, it's funny that's a great pick. They could absolutely use Ben Simmons.
They could talk themselves into it.
And that's what we're looking for here. This is what this segment is all about. Teams that could talk themselves into Ben Simmons being, the missing link, the final piece, whatever terminology you want to use. And Charlotte, you got to, a LaMelo Ball and Ben Simmons combination, that is just tantalizing to the mind. That just alley-oops to alley-oops. It's amazing. So I totally agree with you there. That's a good unlikely pick. My unlikely pick has got to be another team that kind of fell short a little bit of expectations. On the rise, I'm going to go with the Dallas Mavericks.
Ooh.
Another tantalizing duo. To match your LaMelo Ball and Ben Simmons, I will raise you Luka Doncic and Ben Simmons, 2 of the most unique players, not in the NBA, in NBA history.
Dude,
that would be something. You get the ball. I know you don't want to take the ball out of Luka's hands, but you're not. You're just giving him other options. You're giving him somebody else to work with, somebody else to share the load with. Because we've seen at that Dallas team, their big problem, Luka's doing it all. He's doing it all by himself, and it's a little bit of, LeBron in Cleveland vibes.
Oh yeah.
So I think Dallas should be looking to make a big swing. They haven't really pulled their trigger yet. They're kind of saving their ammo. With Ben Simmons at an all-time low rate, I feel like that would be somebody that I'd be willing to push all my chips in for. Because I still believe in Ben Simmons. As a GM, I think you could, find the way to.
I really like the pairing of Luka and Ben. Might arguably be the most tantalizing of an objective NBA consumer. They would say those two guys together is something that would literally have to be on television every night.
Yep.
Because the entertainment factor. So that's a great pick. Am I correct that Jason Kidd is now the coach of the Dallas Mavericks?
Funny enough, Jason Kidd is the coach of the Dallas Mavericks.
That is where I could see that pairing running into problems.
Yes, okay, he is a bad coach.
Say what you will about Rick Carlisle, but if it was Ben Simmons and Luka with Rick Carlisle, completely different conversation than with Jason Kidd. So that I got to say that. But
Jason Kidd being there does invite the chaos factor of it exploding in everybody's face.
Yeah.
I agree with you there. But hey, you're the guy who hired Jason Kidd. I have to imagine you're at least you have some faith in him to not completely screw everything up.
I guess I just think of what we've seen from him in the past. He's got to prove us wrong.
I wouldn't have hired him in the first place if I thought he could mess something up.
Sure.
That badly.
Sure.
I would have just not hired him. I would have hired somebody else.
Yeah, you could have promoted within.
Anybody else.
Yeah, the current Boston Celtics head coach was a member of their organization, Jemima Mosley, I believe. Or is he a member of a different organization?
I think he's a member of a different organization.
Hey, well, whoever the Celtics coach is going to be bad, so I feel like,
he's the former Sixer. He's the former Sixer assistant.
Oh, Ime Udoka?
Yeah.
Is that correct? He's now the Boston Celtics coach?
You didn't know that, man?
Breaking news right now on the Eric Jr. podcast. The Celtics head coach is going to not be good because he's from our organization.
Yep.
So
we can only hope so.
Last surprise team. Listen, there was supposedly a member of the organization that scoffed at this idea.
Yeah.
But give me the Denver Nuggets.
Yes.
I
love this.
Wanting to just say fuck everybody and be like,
middle finger
we
to the
can't
world.
play defense. How about we get the best perimeter defender and just put him with Jokic and be like, listen, big guy, Embiid couldn't do it for you. He was taking up too much space in the paint. Oh, we're so sorry. How about this unicorn? How about the MVP, illegitimate MVP, Nikola Jokic, to pair with Ben Simmons, a guy who doesn't need to just pound the ball inside before he gets his 4 or 5 moves off.
Not as post heavy as Joel Embiid. A lot from the elbow, a lot from the top of the key. So theoretically, the fit would be a little bit better in Ben Simmons' mind. I thought the fit was fine, but
yeah, just the swap
of
Jamal Murray for Ben Simmons that Denver fans were just that is so insulting. Where it's is it really though?
No, dude.
When you guys have no defense,
he's also hurt a lot,
injury prone, and very absolutely just microwave score.
Yeah, had
150-point game in the bubble or whatever.
And they didn't even they lost the next round.
And they had the MVP this year, and it's you didn't do anything.
Nope.
You didn't have Jamal Murray, but come on now, let's not kid ourselves. I feel like Denver could be again sending him out west.
Yeah.
So I feel on both sides. So. There's my 2 cents on the Ben Simmons improbable destinations.
We're going to run out of teams pretty quickly because half the league has been
linked to this
story.
We're going to have this thing run its course.
Yeah, we're going to run its course. That has been the unlikely team segment. I'll put in some editing. I'll do some magic here. We'll put in some noises.
That sounds great.
Yeah. Oh, it'll sound awesome.
Top notch.
I'll cut this out too. Don't worry about it.
Good.
Yeah.
All for the better.
The listeners won't hear any of this. They'll just be like, bah, bah, bah.
This
it'll be great.
Classic Vamp.
Yeah, of course. Well, I think that might do it for our podcast. We've covered all the topics. We covered the Eagles, covered the Phillies, the Sixers. Is there anything else that we could possibly cover?
Are the Philadelphia Flyers going to win the Stanley Cup this year? Yes or no?
No.
End of segment.
Yeah. We'll get to the Flyers at some point. They kind of snuck up on us. I think they snuck up on a lot of people.
They always do.
They always do. There'll be plenty of time to cover the Flyers.
Tell you what, they're going to get to the playoffs before the Phillies do. How about that?
I mean, that's a good bet right there. That's a good bet. Anything else to add?
Absolutely not. Tuesday's a slow podcast day, so listen to it tonight while it's most relevant.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And we'll see you next time at the Eric Jr. Podcast. Bye.